Hi, I'm Sandy, and welcome to Life with Sandy. Well, good morning. Today is Saturday, October 22nd, and we do have some birthdays. Today is Velma, and the name of her channel is the Busted Canada Barbie. Velma, it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Velma. Happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. It's also Catherine, and I don't know how to pronounce your last name. L-I-P something, Lipra, I think it is. Well, it's Catherine's birthday. So Catherine, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Catherine. Happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. Well, I hope you both have a great birthday. Well, Jim woke me up at 8 o'clock and says, well, I talked to him last night. I'll start off with that. Look at his office. It is sunny, I know. I talked to him last night, and he said that they were letting him eat solid foods. So what does my SMRT man pick? And they let him pick it. I was surprised that they did, but he picked a cheeseburger and fries. And so he had that for dinner last night. And I said, well, how are you feeling? And he says, I'm feeling pretty good. He says, for breakfast I picked, I think he said bacon and eggs or sausage and eggs with potatoes and juice and coffee. Okay. I said, I think you're putting too heavy of foods on your stomach, since he basically has not eaten since Monday. He's had chicken noodle soup and crackers and things like that, but I mean, as far as food, he's not. Oh, that man of mine. So when he calls me this morning at 8 o'clock to tell me that he's talked to his doctor and the doctor's releasing him, come and get him. I says, okay, well, let me take my shower and then I'll be over to pick you up. I'll call you when I get off the expressway so they can bring you downstairs. There's no point in me parking and going in and going to his room and then coming back. So he says, okay, that sounds good. So I started driving, and then Jimmy called. Jimmy's finally moving all of his stuff out of the basement. So him and Samantha and David came over. Samantha's going to drive Jim's truck, and they're just going to load everything up in the 3 trucks. Hopefully, I think they're going to need 2 loads myself. I don't think they're going to get it all in one load, because if you've seen that video, there's a lot in my basement. So he's coming. So I had to go back home to what did I have to go home for? But yeah, I went home for something. But anyway. Oh, I think I just to clear a path to the basement. Just so I don't. Jim has all of his stuff there, and I just figured that I'd put it to the side so it wouldn't be in his way. That's what I did. So I did that, and then got back in the car and started to drive. And while Jim was talking to me after he ate breakfast, he called me and he said, that was it. He called me and said, you know how my train of thought goes. Sorry about the sun. Maybe that's better. He called me to say that I could come and pick him up, and that's when I told him when I get off the expressway I'll call you, and then you can come down and blah blah blah, all of that. So he said okay. So I did all of that. I got in the car, I started driving, and he calls and he said, what time are you coming? And I said, well, I'm on my way back to go move the stuff out of the way for Jimmy, and then I'm going to come up. He says, just a minute. And then I hear him. He's vomiting. I said, Jim, did you tell the nurse that you're vomiting? And he says, no, I feel better now that I have. Well, nobody likes to vomit, but for the most part, sometimes you do feel better after you've vomited. So the nurse just then came in, and I says, well, tell her. And so then he said, well, I'm getting released at 10 o'clock, but I did have to vomit and that. And she says, oh, well, I'm going to have to check with the doctor. So sure enough, Jim calls, and he said, they're not going to release me because I vomited this morning. And I said, it was because of your food choices. You should have listened to your wife. So I said, well, I'm going to just come up and see you this afternoon. I forgot my water. And so then Danny called, and he wanted to know if he was coming home today, because if not, he was going to go visit him. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. You can go visit him this afternoon and watch football with him. And I'll just go now because I was planning on going right now in the morning anyhow, so I'll stay with him a couple hours in the morning, and then when you get there to watch the football game, I'll go home. So he says, okay, that sounds good. So I called Jim back. I asked him if he needed anything, and he said, no, he's fine. So I says, okay, so I'll be up in a little while. So we'll see. And then when Jimmy got there, I said, how long did it take you to get home yesterday? Because it took me almost like an hour and 3 minutes or something like that, 57 minutes. It was like a long, way past my comfort zone of 30 minutes. And so he said, well, no, I took Jefferson up to Shook, and then I got on at Shook, and he says, I got home like in 35 minutes. I said, well, how long did it take you to get from Jefferson to Shook from the hospital? And he says, that's what he says, it took me about 20 minutes, maybe 25. It took me 20 minutes to go from the hospital just to get to the expressway. And then it was all rush hour traffic. It was awful. It was just awful. But I don't have to worry about that today because it's Saturday and there's not that much traffic. And the Detroit people that work downtown in Detroit, they work like 9 to 5. So our rush hour usually is like 5 to 6:30, 7 o'clock. And that's about when I was coming home because I wanted to get home before it got dark. So I got to hit all of that traffic. So hopefully Jim makes some smarter food choices today and stops vomiting so that he can go home tomorrow. But I was hoping that this was going to be my one and done drive here. Because I didn't... Oh, you know what? That might present a problem tomorrow. I got Oliver tomorrow. Well, Oliver will have to go with me if I pick him up. I just thought of that just now. Or maybe if he gets off early enough, Danny could pick him up. Because Danny's only 20 minutes from the hospital. Danny could pick him up and then bring him when he brings Oliver. That might be the plan. Because they were going to release him at 10 o'clock. So that might be the plan we're going with. We'll see. So, but yesterday when I was going, I got in the hospital. They have like it's an above ground parking lot. You got to go downstairs and walk down to get into the main entrance of the hospital. So I parked my car and started walking, and I had like a little bag for Jim, with his toiletries and some change of clothes and stuff. And this lady comes, and it was a Beaumont van, and she rolled her window down, honked. She says, "Would you like a ride?" And I said, "A ride?" And she says, "To the front, to the main entrance." And I go, "I don't know. Can I really trust you? Are you just some kind of psycho that wants to pick me up and kidnap me?" And she says, "You wouldn't know until you get in my van." But she had the uniform on, and she looked really official, and she was my age, and I figured I could take her on. So when I got in, I made sure the door unlocked. That's just to watch too many Criminal Minds, I'm telling you. So when she was driving me to the door, she said, "Oh no, this is a service they offer." And then she stopped at one of the handicap signs and she showed me the phone number. She said, "You just call from that phone number and we come up here and we'll pick you up and we'll drive you right to the door. And when you leave, you just, at the door there's a phone, you call the phone and we'll pick you up and drive you right to your car." I said, "Well, how much does it cost?" She says, "It's completely free." And I go, "Well, they don't advertise it." She says, "Because they don't want to do it." But they do it as a service for the handicapped people. But anybody that's elderly, so then, once again, I don't think I look elderly, but obviously I must, because people look at me like, "Oh, honey, let me help you." I know I get that look a lot. So I said, "Oh, okay, But you know what? It was kind of nice, because not that it's a long walk, but I was being lazy with my foot acting up the way it was. And then when I got to the hospital, oh my gosh, to get to Jim's room, it was like, you got to go down this hall, and then you go down this hall, and then you go down this hall, and then you go down this hall, and you go over there, and there's the elevator. And then when you get off, you go straight, and then you turn, and then you turn, and then you turn, and then you turn again. So, I mean, I did get my walk in the hospital, because it was quite a walk. But he looked pretty good, and I stayed for about 4 or 5 hours visiting with him. We went for a walk. We forgot to put our masks on. We got busted by the nurse. And then while we were out, his battery pack on his IV pole, we had to go back to the room so he could charge it. And then the lady across the hall from him, oh my goodness, she caused such a commotion. She was a psych patient that they were waiting to transfer to a facility. And she was abusive and screaming and swearing and yelling. And they had to bring a male nurse in to take care of her. And so then they brought security in to bring her back to her room. Then they had to have a nurse sit with her so that she wouldn't leave the room and agitate all the other patients. And then at one point, Jimmy was there. At one point they called the police with the canine unit to put her back in the room, and nobody could leave their rooms at that point. And the police officer was standing outside our room, and I heard him say to the nurse, well, when are they coming? She says, well, we're just waiting on transport. Believe me, we want her out here as fast as we can. I don't even know how she got admitted up here. I don't know how they didn't, find that out in the emergency room. So, anyway, she was having some kind of psychotic break. Always something going on. So, but I had planned on making for the Cracktober, which I made this morning before I left, for Jim and I. But then I got to thinking because tomorrow is Jones Pointed Plate at 9 a.m. as a Cracktober. It's similar to the Soup-tember that we did last month, where everybody did a soup recipe. I did pasta fagioli. But this month is Cracktober, and it's a crackpot recipe. So I did a chicken stroganoff, which Jim and I had a while ago. We've had it in a long, long time. And it's so quick and easy. Watch my video tomorrow. You'll be amazed how quick and easy it is. Mine is a higher in points because I don't use like fat-free and things like that. I use full-fat foods. So mine is, on my plan, 9 points a serving. But that's without noodles. So we put it over noodles. So I'm going to have that for my dinner today. So I have to really plan accordingly how I'm going to eat today to have such a high point dinner, because my dinner is probably going to end up being about 13 points. But it's delicious. It really is. Jim likes it too. And then even as I was making it, the reason I made it is because for the Cracktober tomorrow, because I had always planned on having that for today, not knowing that Jim was going to be in the hospital. But it freezes really well too, so I'll just have my little portion, maybe have some leftovers tomorrow, and then just freeze the rest. It only makes 6 servings, so I won't have to freeze that much, probably just a little bit. But like I said, it's quick and easy. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't look the most appetizing, but it is delicious. I know I'm trying to convince you, or am I trying to convince myself? But I do like it. I really do like it. So, and then Christy's going to try to go see him when she gets off work today. She had to work at Boston Market this morning, and then she's got to go into her actual job this afternoon. So she might go see him tonight, but she's not 100% sure. Her and Sophia. Sophia and Aaron, when they went the other day, he was still in the emergency room, and in the emergency room they only allow one visitor at a time. So that's what happened with that. And then when I was driving home yesterday, I told you I asked Jimmy about the quicker way to go home, but this is Saturday. There's not that traffic, so I don't have any problem with that. But what did we want to talk about today? I was going to talk about, I like that saying about the rear view mirror, because the rear view mirror is so small, and I spent too much time this year looking back at how well I did, because I really did really well. I'm not bragging, I just really did really well. And I kind of started gaining weight back, and then instead of looking forward to have a plan to get myself back on track, I kept looking in the rearview mirror how well I had been doing before. And the more I looked in that rearview mirror, the farther away I got from my bigger loss that I had, which was 96 pounds. So now I'm just strictly looking forward, because your windshield is so much bigger than the little tiny little mirror, or the rearview mirror that you're going to see. But I know it's just easier to always think that once you get to a weight that you want, that you can go back to your old way of eating. You just really can't. And I've known that because I've done it so many times in the past. So many times in the past I've figured out, I got this figured out, now I can go back and I can have a pizza, which you can have a pizza, but like I was having like a slice of pizza and a side salad. Well, then I kind of got to, I can have it on a pasta salad with it, and maybe 2 slices of pizza. And then before, when I was having my slice of pizza, I was having a diet iced tea, like a plain iced tea, unsweetened. And then I thought, well, you know what, you could have a Pepsi with it, or a Coke, or a Dr. Pepper. It's not going to really hurt. So those little tiny little changes in my diet are really what made the difference. I know eggs are 0 points, but I always just had 1 hard-boiled egg for breakfast. Then I thought, you know what, I can have 2 hard-boiled eggs. They're 0 points. What difference does it make? It does make a difference because it's still calories. Now also with the orange juice, because I love orange juice, I really at one point was just having orange juice maybe twice a week, 3 times at the most. I got into the habit of having orange juice every single day. So once again, not a lot of points, but a lot of not even a lot of calories, but I was giving myself an extra 50, 55 calories a day just drinking orange juice and having the egg. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you add it up over the week, it gets to be a lot. So looking forward, I'm going to go back to making smarter food choices. I have to look back somewhat just to figure out on my journals when I was eating healthy and I had a steady loss, because I think my best loss streak was 8 weeks, which is pretty darn good. And that was way back in 2020. And back in 2020, if I'm really honest, I didn't go out to eat. I didn't get carry-out foods. I cooked all my own meals. I didn't shop at the store. I shopped online, so I didn't put anything in my cart that I knew that was going to be tempting afterwards. And especially since I didn't go out, I didn't go out to get ice cream or anything like that. So I have to go back to the mindset of the 2020 Sandy, because I think I did so much better. And I don't think, I know. Everybody gained weight during the pandemic. I lost 28 pounds. So not a lot for a whole year, but I'd give anything to have that 28 pounds off right now. I tell you, that would put me at 88 pounds lost. So anyway, that's what you got to do. And then through it all, I think some of it was like, you can be disappointed in yourself, but I got so disappointed in myself that I really was considering stopping my channel, because I thought, that was one of the reasons I changed my name from Life with Sandy, because let's face it, I wasn't getting fit anymore. So I thought, let's change the name to Life with Sandy, because it's more or less like it is my life that you're seeing. And really, I'm not changing my channel name, because I do like my channel name, but I can pinpoint it to that particular time was when I kind of gave up on myself as far as being really 100% into losing weight. So no looking back anymore, just looking forward. I guess that's about it. I'm trying to think if I had something else, because you guys are keeping me company, but you don't want to hear me talk for another 20 minutes, because I got another 20 minutes before I get there. Well, I did film Jimmy and Samantha and David, so I'll include that right here. And no, you know what? I'll film Jim at the hospital. He loves that. And then I'll include Jimmy in that. So I will be back and talk to you guys in a little while. Well, Jim's all bummed.
I are.
He's got to stay another day.
Yep. Probably for the best, though.
Yep. He just got back from x-rays.
From what?
Getting x-rays.
Yeah, x-rays.
So we're waiting for the results from that. He doesn't like the food.
No. Actually, I don't have the appetite either.
Well, but he's going to get better.
I hope so.
We always
Oh, look at the so cute. They were coming to move the stuff out of the basement.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. I don't believe it.
Me neither.
So, anyway. And see, I got my chicken stroganoff crock pot meal going. I was going to make that for both your dad and I. We're going to have it on the video
On the fly?
tomorrow. No, it's tomorrow. It's going to be a Crocktober recipe, so I'm making chicken stroganoff.
Crocktober.
Oh, that sounds
Crocktober, isn't that good?
That's cute. I like it. We've been crocking too.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Well, I'm home now. I stayed for a couple hours with Jim, and Danny got there, and they're going to watch the football game. So I thought, okay, and I'm going to call him later on tonight. Christy said she might go by and see him tonight. Well, I was there when I first got there. He wasn't in the room. Yesterday I brought my book when I went to visit him, just in case, and we talked and we went for walks and things like that to keep him out of the room, get him moving along. And so I didn't get a chance to read. So today I thought, well, I'm not going to bring my book. We're just going to sit and talk. Big mistake. Like I said, when I first got there, he wasn't in the room. They had gone for tests. They did more x-rays, and it's still showing a bit of an obstruction. So they want him to stay in another day or two. If he doesn't, his stomach, he's complaining of his stomach still bothering him. They might put a tube up his nose to drain the liquids out of his stomach. Jim's not looking forward to that happening, so we'll see. They also took his food away, so he's back to just eating soft like applesauce and things like that. So now he's off of solid foods again. And I didn't bring my book, and he was gone for probably maybe a half an hour before he came back to the room. He must have just left before I got there. And then we went for a little bit of a walk, to get him some exercise, and we came back to the room, and for the next hour and a half he slept, and I had no book. So I just sat there and played games on my phone and did some stuff on my phone, got that taken care of. And then he woke up and we talked a little bit more, and then Danny got there to watch the football game, so I thought, I'm going to come home. So I am just exhausted. Jimmy has a good majority of the stuff out of the basement. When I pulled up, my neighbor next door, he says, so why didn't you tell me? And I go, what? And he says, I look at your garage, because I had just opened my garage door. And he said, you're moving, and you didn't even tell us you're moving. And I go, I'm not moving. He says, well, your garage says otherwise. And so then I looked and I go, oh, no, that's Jimmy's stuff. And he says, Jimmy's? And I go, yeah, remember when he was building his house? Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me you were storing his stuff. I said, yeah, he's taking all the stuff out of storage now. I says, we are not moving. And he says, oh, that's good to know. I says, if we do move, it'll be in the dead of night when people don't see us. And he says, well, that seems more to par with what you would do. And then he just kind of laughed. And so then he says, well, where's Jim? And then I was telling him about Jim. He says, well, we have the best neighbors. I mean, we really do, on either side, because earlier this morning when I was going to the hospital, I was talking to my neighbor Greg on the one side, Greg and his wife Denise, and I was talking to them and telling them about Jim. And so they said, well, I'm going to be cutting the grass later on. Well, why don't I cut the grass for you? And I said, no, the grass is good. Jim cut it last week, and it doesn't need it. And she said, well, no, I'm going to be cutting the grass. I'll cut your grass. I said, no, thank you, Greg. I appreciate it, but no, that's okay. And so he says, well, if you need anything, we're right here. Just call us at any time. And I go, I will. And so then when I was getting back and Jason was cutting his grass, I tell you, I have the nicest neighbors, because Greg cut part of the grass that was on his side, and Jason cut the other part of the grass that was on his side. So grass is all cut. They're really nice. And so he says, well, if Jim's not home, let me know and I'll bring your trash out. I said, no, I can wheel the barrels out. He said, no, I'll do it. Not a problem. So it's good to have good neighbors. Like I said, I've only had one bad neighbor my whole life, and he made up for all. He was just, I think he was mentally ill. He's the one I told you that when he got mad at the police and he set his house on fire and killed himself in the house, and then he burned to death. Well, I don't know if he burned to death or he got shot himself to death or whatever, but his house burned to the ground. They had to completely razz the whole, it was a brick home too. They had to completely demolish the whole house. That's a mentally ill person, which is sad. But he was a nut. He really was, because he just was, even though he was mentally ill, he was scary at times. So, but I'm just going to sit here and relax, stay on plan. I had, when I got home, I made a chicken stroganoff for the collab for tomorrow. Joan's Pointed Plate has a Cracktober collab, and so I had that. And here, I'll show you a quick little picture of what it looks like. It was delicious. I've had it before. I've had it in a long time. And so when she said she had to do a crock pot recipe, I thought, I'm going to do this crock pot recipe. The only thing is, I had to pull out the recipe, and it said 7 hours. And then I put a little note on the side of my little paper that I had for my notes, and I had a bunch of question marks. And I thought, I wonder why. Well, yeah, I put it on before I left on low, and I've been gone for about 3.5 hours, I think. Maybe longer. No. I put everything in the crock pot, and I told Jimmy to turn it on before he left. So he turned it on just before he left, and when I got home, it cooked in 3.5 hours. It said 7, and it cooked in 3.5 hours. So if you watch the recipe tomorrow, it's supposed to go up at 9 o'clock in the morning. If you do watch it, I think that I did say that it took 3.5 hours, but I'm not really sure. So even though the recipe says 7 hours, don't, because that chicken it'll be done. Let me tell you, it'll be done like a dinner, an overcooked dinner. Now I'm getting punch drunk. Now I'm being silly, because I'm tired. I really am tired, because I went to bed about 3 o'clock last night, and Jim called me at 7:30, telling me he can go home. Only to find out at 8:30 when I was on my way there, he was not going home. So, okay, that's going to do it. So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave a comment, hit the like button, share if you think somebody might like to see it. Talk to you soon.